white girl, I got that. White girl, white girl, white girl, white girl, 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 girl. I throw the Yola in the pot, let it simmer and babe. Add a little baking soda, make it form like aftershave. I like to serve my dope wet, cause it weigh a hell of a lot more. You can smell a residue in the fumes from next out. Turf superstar, microwaves and pickle jars, portable digital.
Grand Rising, everybody. This is Goddess Kendra. Thank you for tuning in to another video. If you haven't already, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and share. So today's topic is, it's a review on a show that came out in 2016 called The People vs. OJ Simpson. Now this happened all the way in the 90s. I remember just not being able to watch cartoons, and I remember being upset, but I didn't truly understand the case of OJ Simpson versus the people. One thing I will say is the show that came out and is put on Netflix definitely fabricated some things. Of course, it's Hollywood's version of what happened. But my thing is, one thing that was very crucial to this case is that Nazi cop who said, I will terrify niggers, and if you're a mixed race couple, I will rain terror on you. He was definitely a Nazi, and I believe, did OJ technically kill Nicole Simpson Brown? No, but there's a possibility that he hired somebody to do it. Let's be real. I mean, did OJ beat Nicole? Yes. Was Nicole innocent? Fuck no. She was a crackhead living in Brentwood. How in the fuck can a crackhead afford to live there? I mean, even with my salary now in 2020, I couldn't afford to live in that motherfucker because it's truly, truly too expensive. Now it sucks after watching this that the prosecution and the whole system never truly tried to find out who killed Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson. We both know OJ and Nicole cheated on each other. We know there's domestic violence. There was a scene in the show where they said OJ took a lie detector test. I don't know if this is true, but they said he was a -20. You need a +3 or higher to pass. I don't know if that's true. But I feel even in 2020, this happened a very long time ago. Nobody tried to figure out who killed her. And we all know it is very true and possible that the police will set up DNA to make it look like a crime. We have technology for a decade where they can literally put your face, put you at the crime scene and put DNA, because you ask yourself, how the fuck did the popos get 2 vials of OJ Simpson's blood? That shit don't make motherfucking sense to me, YouTube land. Doesn't make sense at all. Then they look at it, he's a black man with a white woman, and you could tell, I mean, I'm not the smartest. I've looked at the crime scene photos. That's definitely made me feel sick to my stomach. But whoever truly murdered them did that shit out of rage. Because if you're going to stab someone over 40 times, you really want them dead. And it's crazy as hell. Then, of course, you know, there was Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian Sr., and Shapiro. I can't think of the first name. It was his dream team, right? I feel, well, in any case, when you're on trial, you definitely have to wait in jail until they prosecute. I know this trial lasted a year. I totally feel very terrible for every juror that was on that case, because you were not allowed to really leave the hotel. You weren't really allowed to watch TV or use the phone or go home. It was like you're in jail. And I used to want to do jury duty, but I found out that you literally get paid like a prisoner does. So I'm like, We know OJ has seen his wife getting hit from the back in her backyard. We know when OJ Simpson went out of town, she would bring Ron Goldman in the house, so you're fucking him with your kids in the house. And then this little motherfucker sitting here driving his cars. Now, like I said, both of them cheated, but I don't ever recall OJ bringing bitches to their house. I mean, where your kids sleep. Then you ask yourself, whoever killed them did it quietly because their children were upstairs. If they were truly wanted everything dead, they definitely would have killed the kids too. Like I said, domestic violence is not okay, but I feel this series on Netflix definitely was a fail for me because some of the facts that they put out there weren't true, but it gave me a better understanding. Now, when I have the chance, I will go back on my TV and look up the actual documentaries about what happened. But of course, whenever a white woman or man is killed and a black person's involved, they're always going to say guilty, guilty, guilty. Now, how do we know Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson did not have enemies? Like I just fucking said, this bitch was smoking cocaine or snorting cocaine. How do we know she didn't owe money to somebody and they decided, oh, since you ain't gonna pay me, obviously she didn't have money because OJ was paying all the bills and let her continue to stay in his house like he's a good motherfucker because with all that toxicity, they said, okay, I definitely will divorce you, but I get the kids. You ain't got money, bitch. Seriously, think about this. How do you know they didn't have enemies? And I remember Ron Goldman's dad said, my son needs to be celebrated, but your son's a ho ass nigga because he was fucking a married woman. And you fucking a married woman got you killed. Think about that shit. OJ didn't give a fuck that Nicole was fucking cheating on him. For every one nigga, he had 4 bitches. Like I said, he would send men to fuck his wife and all type of shit. And it's crazy. I mean, I feel if OJ would have just stayed with his first black wife, beautiful black woman, none of this bullshit would have ever occurred. And then pretty much YouTube, things would have been fine. And then when he was found not guilty, and I remember he went to jail for stealing his own shit. To this day, OJ's in his motherfucking 80s. White hoes is coming to fuck. But me, if white bitches got me in trouble when I was a man, I would leave that bullshit alone. So now I have another topic before I play an 11-minute audio. So like I said, Robert Kardashian Sr. met OJ Simpson when they were in college, and OJ convinced him to get his degree back again to practice law. So basically, Robert Kardashian Sr. was a working attorney, and then for a while he stopped practicing law. So OJ's like, man, you'll be part of the team. Just retake your certification to be a lawyer. So in the beginning, Robert Kardashian Sr., or Bob as OJ called him, decided to represent OJ. And he was like, you know, Bob, I didn't do this. And at a point, OJ allegedly was going to blow his brains out. So Rob was like, yeah, I'm going to be there for my friend. We need to give justice. You know, he didn't really do this. And he talked him down from suicide. He helped during the case and everything. He was encouraging his friend not to give up like a good friend should. Then, as the evidence came, like I fucking just said, the police tamper with evidence because when Johnny Cochran asked, I can't remember the guy's name, I don't really give a fuck, said, so when you got evidence from the crime scene, did you so-and-so take it to the police precinct or whatever? He's like, no, I took it home. So then your shit's not credible, right? So then as the case goes on, Robert's like, well, how was there blood in the car? When he was literally found not motherfucking guilty, he literally threw up and looked like he was mad. Then his excuse was like, but the evidence, I'm sorry, Rob Kardashian Sr., but you don't realize what it's like to look like me or be black. So, of course, they wanted to find OJ guilty. And of course, like I said, there was a Nazi fucking cop who said he would terrorize niggers at any biracial couple. And he called OJ Simpson about 40 niggers. Hold on one second. I have to say, viewer discretion is advised. He called OJ Simpson about 40 niggers, and he's on record saying how he likes to beat the shit out of niggers and beat the fuck out of us. So, not credible. So then Rob started just being real funny. And how do you be there for your a friend that you say you love so much, then all of a sudden you turn their back on them? Like I've always fucking said, I don't care if one of my closest friends or even my child was accused of murder. If he or she was with me all night and I knew they didn't do it and we had to go to court, yes, I would testify. Of course, I would fucking testify. And I wouldn't give a fuck what the internet had to say. You can threaten to kill me, you can make up lies. I wouldn't give a fuck because at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is fucking wrong. And I really felt in my heart Robert wanted OJ Simpson to be guilty. And then basically, when you see in the audio, he said that man would never be my friend. And he knew OJ has loved Robert Kardashian Sr. since the 70s. They met in college. So how do you go from that's my dog to fuck you, I don't like you? So you're no different than these racist peckerwoods who don't like niggas. Like you're Armenian, it's European. Some dumb bitch on YouTube try to tell me the Kardashians are black. Bitch, get your dumb ass out of here. I'm like, whatever. Well, like I said, then he started turning his back. And then behind OJ's back, he started saying, oh, yeah, he's guilty. But then would tell OJ to his face, keep it up. Like, bro, that's super fake. Like, and then you're upset because Chris was talking crap. You're going to let an uncredible bitch who clearly, I'm going to say allegedly, we know Chloe ain't your fucking child. It has been said plenty of times. And if you go back and Google, look at the Kardashian pictures, Chloe's always in the background. She don't look like her mother and she don't look like her father. It's alleged that OJ was her father. And while she was fucking on Rob with somebody else, guess what? They said that boyfriend at the time was a big possibility to be Chloe's father. So we know Chris was fucking like 40. She's a hoe. Come on now. You don't think Robert's family gene goes back like hundreds of years ago? His great 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 grandmother was a witch, got casted out of the village, did a curse or did a spell that said my future generation will be beautiful and talented. You don't think his wartlock ass taught his wife, and you don't think his wife taught his kids? I believe she might have put a spell on his ass. And then it's ironic that Rob Kardashian, a lawyer, right, businessman, dies in 2003 of throat cancer. Because it's ironic to me because I feel most lawyers, 85% of them are fucking liars, especially prosecuting attorneys. They will blame a crime scene on somebody just so they have a case and they know they fucking lying. How can you live with yourself? But like I said, Robert was super fucking fake. And like, I just can't deal with that shit at all. And Chris had a lot to say. And then Kim had a lot to say. Like, how do you go from loving somebody to hating them? And you hoes like to fuck black men, but you want to talk shit about them. That's why I be telling people, leave bitches like that alone. I mean, if you like white bitches, go ahead, do what you do. But fuck them. You don't turn your back on somebody because it sucks. I don't give a fuck. Like I said, if my people's was accused of that and I know they didn't do it and I could prove it, I wouldn't give a fuck what the media, what social media had to say, what anybody had to say, because at the end of the day, you don't live my fucking life, so it doesn't fucking matter. So I just find it odd that he said he would never help me if I was in that situation.
Influence about this interview. But to continue, Simpson's friends wanted to believe in his innocence. So did his lawyers. But there was powerful court testimony to come, and it raised in Kardashian's mind terrible doubts, although at first he had none. Once Simpson was arrested, his defense team took over. What was your role? What were you?
If anything, I was the liaison between the attorneys and OJ. Whenever it was bad news, I had to tell OJ the bad news.
Thankless job.
Thankless job, very much so.
Did you make any money from all those weeks and months?
No, I got paid a little bit in the beginning.
Who made the most money?
Robert Shapiro.
How much did he make?
Our deal with him was $1 million to $100,000 a month.
Has he gotten paid?
Not all of it.
Mr. Kardashian, you sat in that courtroom as a lawyer. Now you're talking about things that you discussed with OJ Simpson. Doesn't this violate your attorney-client privilege?
Barbara, I'm on the witness list for the civil trial, and I think that's something that the court will have to determine at that time.
Are you sharing any of the profits, if there are any, from this book?
I don't like discussing my financial situation.
You saw O.J. Simpson almost every single day. He wanted someone with him all the time. At first it was you, and after a while, enough already. And so, what did you do?
I had an assistant of mine, Nicole Pulvers, who was an attorney, and we had her sit with him all day, every day.
She was paid to go and keep him company.
Yes.
That's rather spoiled of Mr. Simpson, is it not?
Very.
In the book, even before the trial started, you say that Robert Shapiro said to you, "This is how I think the murders may have been committed." What did he say?
Mr. Shapiro told me one day that he thinks OJ went over there and he was just going to poke her tires, and she caught him, and that's when the murders took place. And I was astounded. Here is our lead trial attorney giving me this theory of guilt. And I said, I don't want to hear theories of guilt.
Do you think Robert Shapiro thought that O.J. Simpson was guilty?
Yes.
Again and again, you say that Robert Shapiro wanted Simpson to plea bargain.
I overheard Mr. Shapiro at one point in the courtroom during a break say to Mr. Simpson, we should plea bargain. You would get 12 years or whatever it was, and Robert Kardashian would get so much time as an accessory. Well, Barbara, my jaw dropped.
Why would you have been an accessory, for hiding the
I
knife?
have no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I was astounded and I was shaking. I was so mad, so upset. Where would this even come from? He knew that I knew nothing about any of this.
What did Simpson say when his attorney says, maybe we should plea bargain?
He started yelling at Bob, saying, what are you talking about? I don't ever want to hear this again. I didn't do this.
Robert Shapiro denies this. He says that he may just have mentioned plea bargaining with the lawyers as a kind of what if, where you examine every scenario. Which one is telling the truth, you or Shapiro?
I am.
This is why you wanted Shapiro off the case and wanted Johnny Cochran?
We didn't need our lead attorney having concerns about guilt. Also, Johnny Cochran related better to Mr. Simpson.
And Cochran also knew how to win over the predominantly African-American jury. Lawrence Schiller reveals for the first time that before the jury was brought to see Simpson's Rockingham estate, Cochran, Kardashian, and the rest of the defense team gave Simpson's house a complete makeover.
They went in and they remade that house. As one source told me who was there, the white women came off the walls and the black women came marching in.
You and other members of the defense team rearranged pictures, took away pictures of white women. Paula Barbieri, whose nude picture was next to OJ's bed, put in pictures of OJ with his mother, put a sympathetic poster of a little black girl supposedly starting school that had been in Cochran's office, rearranged all these pictures. Don't you feel that you were manipulating the jury?
I did feel this was manipulative.
And actually, the pictures had been quite glamorous and mostly white.
Previously, yes.
Previously.
Yes.
Wow. One of the things that you write that most disturbed some of the members of the defense team was the DNA evidence, the blood. This really raised doubts.
It affected everybody.
Which ones were certain that O.J. Simpson was innocent? Which ones had doubts and even thought he was guilty?
I think that many of them, maybe the majority of them, had doubts, but they were professionals.
Did Johnny Cochran have doubts about O.J. Simpson's innocence?
He had doubts about O.J. Simpson's stories about the cuts on his fingers. He had doubts about the fact that Simpson could remember almost everything in his life, but couldn't explain when the cuts took place or how.
But the biggest problem was the blood. Simpson's blood at the crime scene. Nicole's blood found on Simpson's sock in his bedroom. Most damaging, Ron Goldman's blood in the Bronco. And the blood of all three found in the glove at Rockingham. How did the DNA, the blood evidence, affect you? Ron Goldman's blood in Simpson's Bronco, Simpson's blood in so many places.
Barbara, that was the most devastating part of the whole trial for me. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm so conflicted because of that blood evidence. It's very difficult for me.
You had many discussions with A.C. Cowlings about the blood. You and Cowlings, two of Simpson's best friends. And he also expressed doubt. Yes?
Yes. If you can imagine two men who have known OJ. I, 25 years in AC, grew up with him, knows him much better than I. When we would talk about this blood evidence, we would go all over the board. We would go from innocence, he couldn't have done it, and list all the reasons why. Then we would say, well, but how did the blood get here? Maybe he did. And it was so heart-wrenching, Barbara.
To believe that O.J. Simpson is truly innocent, you have to believe that the LAPD conspired to frame him. Do you believe that?
I don't believe the entire LAPD conspired. I believe a few individuals did some things that were not normal.
But not a whole conspiracy.
No, it's impossible.
It has been reported that Simpson knew the night before the jury came in with the verdict that he was going to be acquitted. True?
Absolutely false.
So when O.J. Simpson walked into that courtroom, he did not know whether or not he was going to be found guilty.
He had no idea, and neither did I.
What was your reaction to the verdict?
That morning, I got to the court a little early. O.J. was in his cell, and I prayed with him at that time. And I prayed to God, not that this man be set free, but that thy will be done. Only you know, God, what has happened here.
Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A.
Mr. Kardashian, do you now doubt O.J. Simpson's innocence?
Barbara, if I were on the jury today on the civil trial, because of the reasonable doubt, I would vote not guilty.
That is not what I asked you. I asked you if you yourself doubt O.J. Simpson's innocence.
I have doubts.
Why?
The blood evidence is the biggest thorn in my side. That causes me the greatest problems. So I struggle with the blood evidence.
What is your relationship today with O.J. Simpson?
The relationship is not the same as it once was, nor will it ever be.
Why not?
Because I have doubts.
You will testify at Simpson's civil trial.
If called, I am on the witness list.
Will you say you had doubts?
If called, I'll tell the truth, Barbara.
If you had to do it all over again, would you have stood by your friend?
To endure death threats on my life, to endure death threats on my children's lives, to lose a fiance, to suffer in my personal business.
Because she was upset about this whole
because the trial just took its toll. To have all these things happen to me, I would honestly say no, I would not get involved again.
How do people treat you today?
Not good. People, I guess, think I had something to do with this.
Did Simpson ever say to you, Robert, I appreciate this, I know what you did?
No.
Would O.J. Simpson have done this for you?
No, I don't believe he would, Barbara.
You are a very religious man. Will OJ Simpson go to heaven?
I'm not God, Barbara.
No, I know OJ Simpson.
So that's crazy. But Johnny Cochran received the most of the death threats. So did Robert Shapiro and anybody that was on OJ's defense team. This motherfucker ain't shit. This is why I tell our people constantly, these motherfuckers that don't look like us hate our black asses for reals. No offense, but Johnny Cochran got the most freaking death threats out of everybody on that case. And basically, he had to hire the Nation of Islam to protect them because, yeah, they did get it. But I don't buy when Robert said OJ wouldn't defend me because OJ Simpson loved Robert and his whole entire family. This motherfucker just can't take the backlash from the public, which makes you a fucking pussy. I don't respect that shit. And he doesn't, and he even said in his own motherfucking mouth that the LAPD did plant evidence. So how do you have doubt? It is so fucking easy to do that shit. Think about it. Whoever really did kill Ron Goldman and Nicole was smart. I'm not saying murder's okay, but there is none of that person's fingerprints. But the public and lots of people say people have jobs. That woman knew and his ex-wife knew what he was doing. Fuck what I tell people all the time, you shouldn't give a fuck what people have to say about you. Either you fucks with me or you freaking don't, and it's all good. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another video. Please subscribe, like, comment, and hit the notification button. Peace and blessings. Have a beautiful day.